An exciting thing about studying the league's best players is that all of them seem to have a unique skill set or trait. Some are similar, and some are widely different, but it makes them be as good as they are and becomes the reason why we watch them every Sunday. A good example of this is Bills edge rusher Von Miller, who has made a career out of being unique. He's been in the league for over a decade now. This coming season will be the 13th in his career, and it's because he's still able to bring certain skills and assets to the table that few others in the league can. You can call this a breakdown, an appreciation video, or whatever you want, but today, I want to look at that skill set and see how it allows Miller to still be one of the best edge rushers in the NFL today. We're going to look at some of his pass rushing moves, specifically his trademark ghost move, and see how he's able to win at the line as often as he does. Miller unfortunately tore his ACL after playing 11 games with Buffalo last season, but before that, he was having a great season. Miller recorded 8 sacks, 45 pressures, 33 hurries, 21 stops, and a pass rush win rate of around 25%. He also recorded an 81.8 pass rush grade and an 85.8 defense grade from Pro Football Focus, which is the 10th time that he's received a grade above 80 in his career. A testament to just how long Miller has been this dominant. Whether he still remains dominant off that torn ACL at the age of 34 isn't what I'm here to talk about. It really isn't even the point of this video. I just saw a lot of things I liked about Von Miller last season that surprised me given his longevity and the fact that edge rusher is one of the most brutal and physical positions in the game. But age doesn't seem to affect Miller, or at least not yet. Maybe it will eventually, but if it does, it sure did take a long time for it to slow him down. Let's first start with Miller's well-known signature move, the ghost move. It's the perfect blend of finesse and agility, two of Miller's best traits, and it's one of the things he's mastered and can do so well even today. What is the ghost move? It's a pass rush technique where a pass rusher quickly ducks his shoulder under the offensive lineman's punch, essentially acting like, well, a ghost, as if the pass rusher wasn't even there in the first place. The goal is to disorient the offensive lineman you're going up against and make it so that he barely gets any kind of contact on you at all. That way, you can easily maneuver past your man and get to the quarterback with ease, and that's what Miller did on this play. Miller didn't create the ghost move, as it was around before he came into the league, but he has perfected it, and it's become his best pass rush move in my opinion. Here's how Miller did it here. One of Miller's power rush moves is using one arm instead of two when making contact to try and get his man off balance so he can beat him easier and pressure the quarterback. The offensive tackle here, Joseph Noteboom, will try to counter this by anchoring himself so he's able to stay balanced and on his feet as Miller is coming towards him. So, Noteboom tries to set his hands, but when he does, Noteboom is completely fooled. Miller fakes the one-arm punch and instead ducks down into Noteboom's arm to beat him before making the sack on Matthew Stafford. It's something that Miller makes look so easy, and it's why he's still one of the NFL's best pass rushers after such a long time in the league. Here's another example of this technique against the Titans in the very next game. There's 1 minute left in the first half, Tennessee is trying to make something happen, but Miller had other ideas. He does the same thing as the last play where he'll extend his arm out to fake a one-arm punch before quickly using it to dip under the offensive tackle, Dennis Daly, and get into the pocket almost untouched. Unlike his play against the Rams, Miller doesn't end up getting the sack here, but he does get pressure, which causes a huge disruption that results in a bad throw from Ryan Tannehill and an incomplete pass. I love this technique because it's Von Miller's whole game in a nutshell. His game is centered around speed and elite technique, and Miller uses that speed to quickly get past his man into the quarterback, and he uses his technique and agility in order to be quick and increase his chances of beating his man. That doesn't mean he can't use power, and he absolutely does when he needs to, but that's how Miller wins his reps a majority of the time. I want to talk about these 3 things next, because they are all definitely worth getting into. The more visible traits are Miller's speed and technique, so we'll look at that before getting into his power. A thing that Miller has done for a while now is that he'll never line up in a 4-point or 3-point stance. He'll always stand and line up in a 2-point stance. He also tends to put himself far out in a wide 9 technique in order to isolate the man he's going up against in order to use his skill set to his advantage. He does this a lot, and he gives himself a lot of ground to cover by doing it, but it doesn't matter because Miller is just that good. His speed allows him to make up that ground pretty quickly, and his technique allows him to keep up that pace once he gets closer to his man and the quarterback. Let's use this play against the Chiefs as an example of that. He's lined up in a wide 9 on the left side and will quickly make his way towards Andrew Wiley, who's the man up against Miller here. But Wiley won't even have time to block Miller because he won't even give him a chance to. Miller gets to Wiley in a flash, puts a nasty spin move on him, and gobbles up Mahomes for the vicious sack. It's almost like if you blink, you'll miss how quickly he gets from the line of scrimmage to the spin move and finally to Mahomes for the sack, and that's a testament to just how quickly Miller can get things done. Here's another play in the same game where he uses his speed to his advantage, made even more impressive by the fact that he has to chase down Mahomes here. Miller again uses his long arm to beat his man and puts pressure on Mahomes with ease. But, because he's Patrick Mahomes, he's able to quickly evade him for the moment. He'll do a couple of spin moves and jukes while he tries to scramble, and during that time, Miller finds himself far away from Mahomes. But Miller still manages to catch up to him just as Mahomes finds somewhere to go. This was a critical third down, and if Mahomes was able to run freely, there was so much open space for him to get the first down. But Miller was able to stop him, forcing a field goal in a game that the Bills would eventually win. I liked this play against the Steelers as well earlier in the season, which was another play where Miller got a sack. He's again lined up out wide, but will start to creep more inside before the play begins, maybe because he knows Zach Gentry will try to chip him here, which ends up happening right after the snap. The main reason I like it is because of his super quick get off here right when the play begins, and that sets the foundation for what happens next. Dan Moore will try to get as much contact as he can on Miller here, but he might as well not even be there, and that is certainly what Miller makes it look like. A slight arm show from Miller and his speed is enough for him to get to Kenny Pickett, and despite his best efforts, he's not able to get away from the pressure just because of how quickly Miller got into the pocket. This next play is going to display another ability of Miller's, which is how he's able to use his technique to cause disruptions and turnovers. Here he's against the Jets on a 3rd and 6, and instead of using quickness, Miller will instead choose to creep up on his man before striking. And he does that to perfection as he prances, makes a starter step, and gets into the pocket as if nobody was even blocking him in the first place. He then makes his way to Zach Wilson for the sack, stripping the ball from him to cause a fumble and a turnover, preventing the Jets from scoring. And even when he isn't getting sacks, Miller is still able to cause disruptions and turnovers just from being in the backfield. Let's go back to that game against the Rams for a good example. Here, Miller is certainly going to face an attempt at resistance as he heads into the backfield, but mostly heads into the pocket untouched. The pulling guard can't get a hold of him, a chip from Cooper Kupp barely does anything, and Miller is in hot pursuit of Stafford as he rolls out. He doesn't get the sack, but gets a ton of pressure on the Rams quarterback, and he has to chuck the ball into the dirt as a result. Here he is against the Chiefs at the end of the game when the Bills need to stop in order to win. Miller is again lined up in a wide 9 and will attempt to win on the inside instead of trying to beat his man on his outside shoulder. With a quick burst, he's able to win on the inside and has to be double teamed in order for Mahomes to escape. But he still manages to get close and even almost puts a hand on him. The quick pressure from Miller forces Mahomes to scramble, the play is disrupted, and Mahomes gets drawn to more pressure before throwing an ill-advised pass that results in an interception and a Bills win, all because Miller got the initial pressure right when the play started. Watching Miller play is an absolute thing of beauty, and I know I'm going back to this a lot, but it's amazing to see him play the way he does after so long in the league. It's especially amazing to see him possess not only his elite technique, but the speed he uses to win reps, invade pockets, and pressure quarterbacks quickly. Many other edge rushers like Micah Parsons rely on speed as well, and few do it better than Miller, and it's why he's been able to stay in the league for as long as he has. He just always finds a way to stay ahead of the curve. But Miller can certainly use power to win as well, and sometimes he'll just straight rush people up the middle in order to get the job done. Let's go back to that long arm technique he uses for that power. He does use it as a ruse to pull off his ghost move, but he'll use it for regular pass rush moves as well. Let's go back to that game against the Rams to see an example of that. It's 2nd and 6, and Miller is just going to put Noteboom in a blender by simply using that long arm technique to just repeatedly shove him back into the backfield. He does it over and over again before he pushes him back into Stafford, and when he does, he gets the sack. Just absolute power on display here. Here he is against the Ravens, where Miller does the same thing again. He's once more lined up in a wide 9 against this empty set from Baltimore, and Miller just uses his long arm to get his man off balance. His power even gets to the point where his man is bending over like he's stumbling out of a bar after drinking 6 shots of Jose Cuervo. But we're not done yet, because Miller still has to get the sack. Lamar Jackson is the best rushing quarterback in football, but even he couldn't get away from Miller on display, and by the time he steps up, Miller is already there to wrap him up and complete the sack. Miller loves using his technique to win and does so successfully on many occasions. But sometimes it's fun to just enforce your will against somebody, and Miller is just as good at doing that as well. The best pass rushers have to win outside, inside, and up the middle, and they also have to find ways to win with technique as well as power. It's safe to say Miller checks all those boxes, which is why he's still so good at what he does. Whether Miller is able to keep this up for the duration of his contract in Buffalo is up for debate. It's really hard to predict how guys will play as they continue to age. But we're not really here to decide that, or at least I'm not. I'm here to just marvel at Miller's ability and show you just how good he still is. He's one of the most influential pass rushers to ever play the game, he's achieved many accolades throughout his career, and certainly has a gold jacket waiting for him at the Hall of Fame when his career is all said and done. Miller has nothing to prove. He can retire today. His legacy is already solidified. But from the looks of it, it seems like Miller has a lot more left in the tank. And as long as he does, he'll continue to be one of my favorite edge rushers to watch. Is that the same for you too? Comment down below and let me know what you think of Miller and how you see his career progressing from here on out. But before you do, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video to help me grow as we get closer to the season. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. That is the end of this video, and as always, thanks for watching.